Well, we have to put mom off. Um, So hearing no public comment, item number 3 on the agenda is discuss and act on a resolution in honor of U.S. Representative James Langevin and his longstanding commitment to the Block Island through his legislative work. We have a resolution in front of us. Would the council like me to read it? Do we need to read it? Does the council all read it?
I've read it.
There's one typo. I would like to just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're on the 7th, whereas we're going to remove proposed and leave proposing an amendment. So the word proposed is used twice. The only question I would have is, be it further resolved that the New Shoreham Town Clerk be and hereby is authorized and directed to transmit a duly certified copy of this resolution to the Honorable James Langevin. Is there any other place that this resolution should go?
Sosnowski's, I had go to the governor and to the Senate president because she's still within the Senate.
Right, and I
I'm
think,
just saying.
we should
different.
change the other one for that to include that also. Just wasn't sure where this should be transmitted to.
I mean, he's retired.
Speaker of the House of Representatives? No. Governor? Okay. So we would, right,
And the governor of the state of Rhode Island.
let's see, we can use it until he's done, Nancy Pelosi is. And then the resolution be made part of the permanent record of the town?
Yep.
Okay. So I will motion to change, well, I don't think we need a motion, but add, be it further resolved that upon passage, copies of the resolution be it further resolved, the New Shoreham Town Clerk be and hereby is authorized and directed to transmit a duly certified copy of this resolution to the Honorable James B. Langevin. And be it further resolved upon the passage, copies of this resolution be sent to the governor of the state of Rhode Island. And that this decree that this resolution be made part of the permanent record of the town.
Yep.
Does that work for everybody? For James Langevin?
Yep.
Laurel, do you have those changes? Thank you. I'll make a motion to accept the wording of the resolution of the town of New Shoreham in honor of Representative James Langevin.
Second.
With amendments made. Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Mark?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
Keith? Martha?
Aye.
I am also in favor. Motion will carry. Next item is a resolution in honor of Senator Susan Sosnowski and her longstanding commitment to Block Island through her legislative work. Sven, I believe you worked on that. You want to take the lead on that?
Sure. I don't know that there's need to read it as well. We talk about a number of things from advocacy for the island and accessibility all the way to major initiatives that she championed, helped lead, and got through Senate. At the end, we do talk about now therefore be resolved the New Shoreham Town Council sincerely thanks Senator Susan Sosnowski for her long-term commitment, creative leadership, tenacity, and kindness, and true commitment for the well-being of Block Island and the town of New Shoreham, and be it further resolved that upon passage, copies of this resolution be sent to the President of the Rhode Island Senate and Governor of the state of Rhode Island, that we decree that this resolution be made part of the permanent record of the town. So it's within the Senate. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to honor Senator Susan Sosnowski.
Second. Any comments? Questions? From the council? Public? Good? Sorry?
Well deserved.
Very well
Kim,
deserved.
did you see it?
All motion made and seconded. All those in favor, Keith?
Yes.
Martha? I'm in favor.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And Sven?
Aye.
Motion will carry. Item number 5 on the agenda is discuss and act on a resolution in honor of Rhode Island Representative Blake Filippi and his longstanding commitment to Block Island through his legislative work. There's been some changes made to this resolution to make them more pertinent to the island. It's different than what's up on clerk base, so I'm gonna read it. Sorry. Whereas at an early age, Blake Filippi began coming to Block Island and worked at his family business, and now he's a business owner on Block Island himself. Whereas Mr. Filippi began serving in the Rhode Island General Assembly in 2015 and quickly made a name for himself as an independent thinker who was vocal but thoughtful and outspoken but unfailingly polite. Whereas Mr. Filippi served on the House Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, the Committee on Judiciary, the Committee on Oversight, the Committee on Municipal Government, and the Rhode Island Lottery Commission, in addition to several special committees. Whereas Mr. Filippi was elected to serve as House Majority Leader in 2017, Minority Leader in 2017, and he had an immediate impact on his caucus and made changes that would have positive impact for years to come. His professionalism and fairness earned him the respect of Republicans, Democrats alike, and his willingness to listen to opponents' arguments earned him friendships along the way. Whereas Mr. Filippi will continue to be an important and visible part of Block Island community as a business owner, an entrepreneur, and dedicated farmer. Do we want to leave that other one? Yeah.
There's a reference in here that doesn't make any sense because we took something else out. And it would just be whereas Mr. Filippi chose
Yes.
to retire from General Assembly, to not run for re-election this year.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you, Martha. Whereas Mr. Filippi will continue to be an important and visible part of the Block Island community as a business owner, entrepreneur, and dedicated farmer, whereas Blake Anthony Filippi has served the people of Block Island, New Shore, Charleston, South Kingston, Wesley for 8 years with honor and dignity. Now therefore be it resolved that the New Shore Town Council hereby thanks Blake Filippi for his service to the town, this district, and the state. And be it further resolved that the New Shore Town Clerk be and hereby is authorized and directed to transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the Honorable Blake Filippi. Do we want that to mirror what Susan says, the distribution?
Well, except that he's no longer in the government, so is there relevance? I mean, is that House and the governor really? It's up to you. I mean, I did it for Susan because she's still in the Senate and an important leader in the Senate. Either way, doesn't matter.
Martha, what are your thoughts on that? Permanent record of the town. Service to the town, and so the addition would be, I don't have that wording. We have so many of these kicking around. And hold on. Find wording, no permanent record. Okay. So in addition, be it further resolved that the New Shore Town Clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to transmit a duly certified copy of this resolution to the Honorable Blake Filippi, and that we decree that this resolution be made part of the permanent record of the town. Everybody
That was a
happy?
motion, right?
I just read it. I'll make a motion to accept if you guys all want.
With all those edits.
With the edits. Laurel, you have those edits? Thank you so much.
I second with the edits.
I make a motion to accept the wording as made for the resolution in honor of Representative Blake Filippi.
Second with the edits.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor, Keith? And Martha?
Aye.
I'm in favor. Martha, Sven? And
Yes.
Mark?
Aye.
Motion will carry. Item number 6, review of financial reports. Marion? Is Amy here?
She in the.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Yes, Amy, thank you.
Good evening. Hi. So you have in front of you financials through the end of October. I don't have anything right off the top to call your attention to. But looking through the revenues, we can turn pages if you'd like, but in general, seasonal revenues finished up strong. and a few items going page by page. On page 2, tax revenues are steady. Again, nothing particularly noteworthy there, but holding where they should be. Page 3, we're really looking at building permit fees, clerk's fees, and recording fees. Are lagging about 40% behind last year. We talked about those last month as well as something that we're keeping an eye on. Last year was an exceptional year. And so it's a hard one to compare to. We did think that we would track a little bit more closely. So that'll be an adjustment that we make as we move into next year's budgeting cycle, unless those pick up in any meaningful way. But it's certainly a little bit of a discrepancy that we'll be looking at. And then the other place I wanted.
Sorry, Amy, is there
Yep.
is there at least an understanding of why?
Sure,
Or is
certainly
it
in
just
the
less applications?
recording and the clerk's fees, that's going to be driven by a slowdown in property transfers.
Yep.
And then the building permit fees, again, we know have a very spiky pattern. So the timing of when those permits come in or how larger permits get split across the project is something that we're becoming more and more sensitive to. Over time, it will all come in, but in any given year, it's somewhat unpredictable.
Thank you.
Sure. The other area that I wanted to point out was on page 6. And that's going to be your hotel and meals revenue, which are exceptionally strong for the summer season. That's consistent with what's been seen across the state in terms of their revenue numbers. But certainly will be carrying us through this season. And given last winter's strong numbers on the meals tax and what we're seeing so far on the meals, I actually expect a strong winter as well on the meals tax, which would be great. So that's exciting to see. And then also on page 6, the bottom line there, we have another tranche of the ARPA money that came in. And so that's just a reminder that we need to revisit those dollars, which the town is holding at the moment, waiting for some decisions about what we're going to do with those dollars. And so we probably need to be putting that on an agenda in short term.
Could someone refresh my memory? Were those unrestricted dollars, or are there particular sort of things that those have to be spent on? Do you remember, Marianne? You know what I mean? Is it kind of?
Amy, I think ours are unrestricted in the sense that we are using them for revenue makeup. Am I correct on that?
There are two parts to that. And so part of it is the reason for our revenues is the reason for our dollars is a revenue replacement. So that does provide more flexibility. That said, the qualifying expenses do still have some parameters around them. They are not entirely unencumbered. Most of the things that we would think of doing would be appropriate, but there are some restrictions. They were particularly loose about, say, sewer or broadband uses, but a lot of other typical government functions would be covered. But it's not that there are no rules. Other questions on revenue?
Grant revenue, Amy, this may be a question for you or Marianne. What's the plan for a grant writer? Who's doing that? How are we doing that? Is that a search going on?
So right now, a lot of the grant writing has been done. Allison has done a
Yeah.
lot of it. I've done some of it. We have not put out for a grant writer. I think the funding we have available for that is small, considering, but we can try putting it out and see what happens. And we're also relying a little bit on this, an agency called Compete RI, which has grant writers. We have reached out to them. We are working with them to find grants that may meet our needs, and they will do the grant writing for us. And that has to do with a lot with the infrastructure money.
My concern is that one, it takes a lot of time from you and or Allison. And I think there's an area where if we don't invest, we won't get those grants because we aren't playing. And I worry that maybe we need to beef it up. So as I think about even for the budget next year, or as we look at it, I think grant writing is a really important area. So I guess I would move that, if we need to do this at a different time, I would move that we start an RFQ and even evaluate the budget. My opinion.
And I agree. I agree with that. I also think that, I don't think I'm alone in this. Particularly on the human services side, I view an important component of that new human services director job, the search and execution of grants, because there's a lot of grant money that we're missing out on. I say that with almost near certainty. One of the reasons I love these monthly updates is that it reminds me of things that I want to ask in the future. We hear a lot of are we charging enough in fees for various and sundry things? So I think it would be helpful to as we move through the budget process to identify where we are not maximizing fees. I think we are in most areas, but I get that question all the time. So I think having a paper that shows sort of what the state maximums are, but also, and I'll do some of this myself, looking at what other, perhaps talking to the Rhode Island League of Cities to get some sense of what other towns across Rhode Island charge fees for, just to make sure that we're maximizing our non-tax revenues, fee-based revenues, would be really terrific. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Anybody else have any questions on revenues? Any questions from the public? Yet?
Keep going, Amy.
Okay, then we'll move on to expenditures where again, I won't go page by page necessarily, but across the board, things are exactly where they typically are in terms of budget to actual at this point in the year. We've been starting to meet with departments on capital budgets, which gives us a chance to touch base on current year spending as well. So particularly the seasonal departments are starting their winter projects and working through those initiatives that they had planned for this fiscal year. The other bigger element, just to give you an update on, is revaluation, which is obviously underway, and to let people know that home visits are expected after the first of the year. So you haven't missed that step yet. Those are planned for the winter and early spring months. And that's probably all I needed to call your attention to so far in expenditures. Again, I'm happy to take any questions that you had in looking through it.
This is less an Amy question, more an us question. Deer management?
There are no deer.
Yeah, right.
Chris Blank said so.
What's the question?
The question is, we've got we have $12,000. Is that right, Amy? Am I reading this correctly?
That's correct.
And what's that been spent on in the past?
And so that's a combination of the tags and the tails programs, both of which are in place. A reimbursement, $12.50 on the tags, and the tails, I believe, are $150.
Because I guess the season just started. Okay. Thank you.
Sitting on the back porch.
Any other questions?
I don't know.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy,
Very
as
much.
always.
Thank you. Sorry I couldn't be there with you.
We good with finance?
We're still going on this? 'Cause I'd like to thank Amy and that whole finance department because I'll be leaving next month. Your department's outstanding under your leadership. You were right there to answer any of the most technical questions anyone brought before you. And you are also right there to dumb it down for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And it's a great chance for me to thank the finance team, which doesn't always get a lot of vocal shout outs. We have a great team and I'm really proud of the work that they do. So thank you to them.
Thank you, Amy. Anybody else? Next item on the agenda is the receiving act on the report. Huh?
We're done? Okay.
We good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Good. All right. Receive and act on the report of the town manager, public works, finance, school construction project, library rec, administration, harbors, broadband, police roads. Marianne?
So you have my report attached in the agenda in the council packet information. Also joining us this evening is John Doherty with Mission Broadband. He'll be happy to update the council on where we are with broadband. You also have a updated schedule that is also in your packet. So at this point, I'll turn it over to John to go through the broadband.
John?
Good evening, councilors. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. As like with Amy said, I'm sorry I'm not there tonight. I tried. I was within 2 hours away when I got the call that the ferry wasn't running. So I'm going to bring your attention to a couple of things from the broadband, the construction or the project perspective, I should say. The timeline you have in front of you, specifically two different elements. One is kind of it may have been forgotten, I'll say, element where the core network installation, we turned up, Ocean, I should say, is the carrier that turned up some interim bandwidth from the island, and that lands in New York and Boston. And the reason that was interim is their equipment that was there couldn't handle the larger bandwidth that was being agreed upon between the town and Ocean. And they were kind enough to say, okay, let's do this solution until we get the new stuff in. As we all know, procurement was going to be a concern. That equipment wasn't due until later this year and cut over into next year. As it turns out, procurement wise, it actually showed up early. And so we were able to, with the team Ocean and agreed with the town, put in that new equipment last week. And it has since been turned up and tested. So that's a good news story that what was going to happen, after probably the network went live, is it was going to be an outage because we had to turn this equipment up to get to the bandwidth that we needed. But that's not needed now. That equipment has been turned up, tested from the Ocean perspective and from the Crocker's perspective. And so there's 100 gig circuit 100 gig circuit that goes to that lands in Boston and also lands in New York. So that came in early. That's good news. So that is completed. The second piece that I want to point out in that timeline is in working with the town. I'll say we added, but actually we expanded the customer experience testing. And so that's important from the perspective of all of the, I'll call it data and the behind the scenes, data systems and workflow that's taken a lot of effort and a lot of resources. And so working again with the town, we really want to confirm these systems work, operate properly, and provide the end user with a good sign-up experience. And so the decision was made to take time up front and really vet out everything from soup to nuts, I will say. So that is not just, hey, can I turn up a circuit and have internet at my house? How do I do it? Right? What's the website? Is the data correct behind it? If I put my address in, am I going to pull up the right information? Will that flow all the way from the website, if you will, into the data that Certex will use to actually do the installation. That'll also flow over to Crocker, which will actually do the turn up of the services on the end of it. So a lot of work going into that currently. And then we're going to spend a fair amount, I'll say, from a testing perspective for the customer experience. So we've identified end users that are willing to be test customers. And so we'll be using them to kind of work through, like I said, the whole experience from what does it look like from a sign up perspective? What does it look like from a coordination perspective, from a timing perspective, from an installation perspective, and then after the fact, okay, is it working the way it should? Again, testing it from the outside in that way too. So those are a couple things I wanted to point out that are different, or one's addition to the whole timeline that you had before. We spent a lot of time with the town, and I'll say recent weeks, really understanding what's left from it's a process, website components, network performance, those types of things. It's got to be nailed down, and that's where that customer experience comes in. So the framework that you have in front of you is that work that we've done. One other thing to note, obviously you still see a lot of Certex construction crews, still doing a lot of underground construction, a lot of aerial construction going on. And that as that comes to an end towards the end of the year from a large construction group, that those resources will be refocused onto the very numerous, I'll say, but underground drop cables that will continue to be installed throughout the winter months as well.
Anybody have any questions?
So just to make sure, this is Sven, thanks a lot for that overview. Just to make sure I'm reading this correctly, in 6 weeks, we're going to go live to that first phase?
That's first quarter. So we loosely put that in there. We got to test. The customer experience testing is going to I'll say uncover anything that really, additional work needs to be spent on, Counselor.
Thank you.
It's Keith Stover here. So I think as the starting line approaches, as the finish line, I'm not sure. I guess I view that as the starting line. As construction ends and people grow increasingly excited about actually having the service at their homes, I think the number of questions will increase exponentially. And how does it work? When do I get mine? There will be probably a set of a half dozen questions that we could sit here and write and know that we're going to get them repeatedly. And when I say we, I think you, individual members, anybody in this room is probably going to get those questions. So as I said last time, I think it is vitally important to err on the side of over-informing and over-educating and under-assuming that people know what's going on. And I think there are some people who would like to hear from somebody like you or Amy in a couple of sessions, whatever, at the library about what this thing is going to look like and what the challenges are. I think there are people who, would love to, as you guys do, sort of get regular and detailed updates that are conversational. I'm pleased that you're doing the work on the website and honor that. But I just, I really worry, to be frank, that this is I think we underestimate, actually Molly O'Neill and I were talking about this morning. We underestimate what a monumental event and moment this is. This is gigantic. It's a huge achievement. And we don't want to lose what should be a celebration to people not knowing how it works and thinking that it doesn't work. And all of a sudden it's sort of like, what did we do this for? So I just, not necessarily, I guess it is kind of an action item, but I do want a plan for how and when we're going to be informing people, educating people, quite frankly, providing tutorials to people to the extent that they need it, even if we just have a volunteer corps that's going to be willing to go to folks' homes who may not be as facile with the technology as you know, as we are. But I think thinking out of the box like that would really make some sense. Thank you.
Amy's hand is up. Under,
How do you know?
it's right there.
Oh, I can't. I don't have the eyes behind my head. Amy, go ahead.
Thank you, Andre, and thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Sven.
Ridiculous. place.
It's just a little bit of additional information along those lines. Kristen Bauman from the library did join us at the most recent broadband committee meeting, and the committee's meeting again tomorrow. And one of the things that we discussed is really the willingness of the library to facilitate some of those conversations, both in hosting sessions and hosting our demonstration board of the electronics that are currently in town hall. Those will probably migrate to the library shortly, so that a different group of people can see it, ask questions, and start to get some of those answers. But we are working on that plan, and I think we hear you and hear the concerns of people who don't know what to expect and don't even know what questions they're going to have. But one of the main focuses of that education effort will be both the library and then the volunteers of the broadband committee in helping to disseminate information and get people comfortable, both before and after their turn on.
Anybody else have any comments?
No, glad you brought that up, Keith. I was going to.
Thank you guys very much.
Public? Good with broadband?
John, thanks.
You're welcome. I'll be back out there soon.
Anybody else have any comments or questions about the town manager's report?
Just please update us and everyone else who's listening in on the status of the police chief, because we made this known months ago that this council wants to be the one who gives the advice and consent of that new police chief.
So I did provide the council with an email update this afternoon. I'm not sure if you had the opportunity to take a look at that. Let me see if I can find it. And basically, yesterday I did receive the written psychological report, which background check is ongoing, clearly not as quickly as I would like. These background checks are extremely thorough and take time. I'll let the town council know when I'm ready to present a candidate.
Who's doing the background check?
I'm working with a couple of different folks helping us to do that. We'll probably use a local police department in Rhode Island and looking to do a police department in Connecticut.
So you're not using the Rhode Island State Police?
We reached out to Rhode Island State Police, and their scheduling unfortunately is too busy at this point to assist us.
So who's paying for this?
At this point, we have not been told that we need to pay for it.
So I'm sorry. Who's doing the background check again?
Don't prefer not to get into the details of the individuals who are doing it, but we are using police department in Rhode Island and a police department in Connecticut.
So how long should that take?
These background checks take anywhere from 30 to 40 man hours.
I'm sorry, how many?
30 to 40 man hours.
So about a week,
30 to 40 man hours.
which is about a week.
it may take longer than a week. But 30 to 40 man hours isn't consecutive. It's not like it's like from 8 to 5 days in a row, based on what they need to do.
For the record, I am free any day up till December 5th to address this issue.
Thank you, Mark.
I would only say that I have been the beneficiary of having to have something get done before a council got out of office. And it caused a great deal of difficulty for everybody involved.
I
And
understand.
I want this done right.
Yeah, I think we all do. You're right, Martha, but it just seems as though that it went a lot smoother and quicker for the candidate that was presented this summer. It just seems to me as this has taken an inordinate amount of time when we really have to put a police chief in place.
Plus, I have been the most outspoken about this particular issue. And I've watched the ebbs and flows of the leadership of our police department over the last 40 years. And boy, has it ebbed at certain times. And I think I have a valuable input in who the next police chief is, just from the experience of past police chiefs and how they handle things or didn't handle things. I've witnessed outstanding leadership in the police department, and I've witnessed underachievement in the police department. And that's why I've been so outspoken for so many years. I want to be one of the 5 who makes that decision.
Thank you, Mark. I'm just having a little problem. The Rhode Island State Police said they didn't have the time to do it.
We reached out to Captain Shabbat soon after he left, and he advised us with what he has going on and what they have going on. They don't think they'll be able to assist us at this point.
The Rhode Island State Police.
Yes.
Thank you. That's very telling. All right. Any other comments on the town manager's report? Make a motion, we act on it, make a motion to accept the report of the town manager?
Second.
All those in favor? Keith? Martha? Sven? Mark?
Aye.
Aye, motion will carry.
Thanks to the harbor master for putting out a notice on that boat. I've seen a lot of
She's great.
extraordinary amount of, oh, somebody should do this on various social media platforms. And I have resisted going in and saying, could you just read the whole thread? And I hope that does something to, I hope a few people read it.
Especially the
Besides
last
us.
line.
Item number 8 is to receive an update on the Thomas Property Housing Construction Project. Tom, I assume that's why you're here with us this evening? Hey, Mark, it's gonna be December 6th,
So the council,
guarantee you.
so the council asked us to get back to them once we have some numbers as relates to the Thomas property. Tom has spent a lot of time working with the company that will be construction the modular homes. So he has numbers, preliminary numbers as it relates to whether we do it the 2 phases individually and then also as one phase with the economy of scales. He has some documents and some printouts that he'll be happy to provide you with.
Thank you.
So I apologize beforehand that I didn't get these in the packet. And then I also hope that sounds like I'm not gonna have to, because I need your help. Even just that.
You?
I'd like your indulgence in expanding this So the second packet is something that I've been working a lot in the last couple of weeks, and it has to do with assets that are not directly that common property, but it is about town employee housing. So if you're with your indulgence, too, but I won't have. The sheet is pretty self-explanatory. There's the picture is the one I presented to you a month ago, I think, with the plans of the two buildings. Basically, there are two structures going up, a two-story structure, I'm now on the Excel sheet. Two-story structure we're calling the Custom Cape, that's what the builder called it. That's replacing the existing Thomas house that's across from the school with two-bedroom apartments. It's designed to go on the existing foundation with a little modification for the rear bump out for those of you that know the house. And this is where the numbers are coming in with the various cost estimates. Some of them that are a lot higher than we had expected is the foundation, both on this one and if you look down at the bottom one, basically a 4-bedroom house foundation now is most of $100,000. And that's double what it was 3 years ago.
Yep.
A lot of it is otherwise pretty basic stuff. The estimate that we got for these houses was with vinyl siding and vinyl trim, and we don't do that on Block Island. And the rest of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing are very basic. Both those buildings will be on town water and town sewer. You may know that we got the allocation for the water just a couple days ago, so that hurdle is overtaken. And if we get the water, we then also get the sewer. So that's one worry away. The efficiencies, as I mentioned, 3/4 of the way down, is by doing both at the same time are pretty intuitive. We don't have enough money in the Thomas property budget right now to do the first structure. We may have to go back to get the balance of the funds. And I would propose that we maybe go back and get the second building as well and do them at the same time. That's going to be your call. It's a big nut, but I think it's prudent. I think it's cost effective, but it's going to take the will of the town to do it. So if you were considering what would be the right term, a midwinter financial town meeting, a special financial town meeting, that would be required to boost the budget for both these buildings. If we could do the first one, which is the low hanging fruit, we would get them under contract right now. The prices I have is if we do them together. It actually gets worse if we don't do them together. But we're into the summer for the construction now. So it would be the May, June timeframe. They'd be delivered in April, May, and be working on site May, June. You know, if they all come over together, there's one crane set, there's one setting up the trucks and the haulers and all that kind of stuff.
So if my math is right, it's 4 units for 1.7 is roughly 425.
Yeah. You can do it by bedroom, you can do it by square foot.
Right.
Yeah, when I got here just 3 years ago, we used to joke that, that one of these days, the cost of building a house on Block Island is going to be $600,000 a square foot. Well, it is, and it's going higher. So
the cost for the Custom Cape is about a third bigger than the other. Is that because of
it's a third bigger.
modifications to fit Thomas?
No, you mean third bigger in just in just total? No, the Custom Cape is a single story building. It's basically two 56-foot long modules. Whereas I'm sorry, the other way around. The duplex ranch is just two modules, two big long boxes. And the Custom Cape is 4. So the downstairs has 1 bedroom and all the living spaces, and the upstairs under the pitch of the roof is just bedrooms because they're accessory buildings can only be 25 feet. So we can't have the two full living floors as accessory buildings.
Is there also, and I could be wrong with this, is there a plan to do something over the existing garage?
No, I just allowed Bob Gallant to re-side that garage because we plan to keep it. I need a couple bucks, Amy, to paint it. And then, it'll last as long as anything else.
What is it used for?
The ATV that, the beach patrol uses lives in there, and one of the cruisers and one of the Kubota mowers that does the plowing for the school and, the sidewalks on High Street. We just moved everything around in there this morning.
And is there an attic?
No, it's a loft, doesn't have those. And it's only 6 foot, it's a low pitch roof, not even 6 foot heavy.
I guess the reason we're. So we do.
Yeah, the enabling,
Yeah, that's just like.
the enabling, stuff that we did was only 4 more units. And, we could have done 2 2s and 2 1s. We went a little bit and did 3 2s and 1 1. And you talked earlier about doing 4 2s, but at some point, 1 1 is, and that would have created a whole third box. So this is just an overview of, obviously, I'd like to push a button very soon. So, like everything else, we need to decide how we want to do this.
Can we put this, we could put up the agenda conversation about, you know, maybe I don't have an idea what this, but if we're going to do something special, better make it. You know, I don't want that.
Well, it's funny you should mention.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, it's more that bundle.
They are in, their order. So what you're looking at is an aerial view of the, area from the breakers out to Cutting Cottages. And those 3 lots each have a house on them that's going to be torn down in the next 6 months. The big one on the bottom left, lot, map 471 is the Captain Willis house. It's rather large. If you break your packet open and go to the first vision package, that's 615 Corneck Road, in the second page, picture of it. What we would do if we were going to move it, and I'll reserve that for later, but we would probably cut off the rooming house on the back and just move the original structure. But as many people have gone in there and noticed, there's nothing original left in that thing. It's been strip clean, and it's basically just rooms. So there's little value in that. It's tallest. It's the tallest of the 3 buildings. It, like the others, is stuck out on the neck, which is great, except getting it through Bridgegate Square or getting it down Beach Avenue becomes the problem.
Could you just repeat that?
It's tall.
Yeah, but the idea is you would just take the back piece.
No, I take that off
You take that off.
and then bring the back piece is relatively new.
Right, got it.
Going to 1065 Corn Neck, that is a beautiful cape out on the edge of, by Cutting Cottage. It's at map 4, lot 17. It has a stairway down to the beach. You all may know it having walked the beach, but inside it's gorgeous. It's 4 bedrooms. If we were going to move that, we would cut the porches off and either rebuild them or move them too. It sits on from this view, it sits on a full exposed foundation, so we would lift it from that point. So we would only lift the 2 stories plus the roof, and then the owner would get rid of the foundation. We would have to put a foundation wherever it went. It's a big house too. Getting it off the site is problematic, but feasible. And I've been talking with a lot of people on this, and all the subs that might work on it, specifically Scotty Cattell, who took over Heffernan's job moving houses on the island, currently moving Turtle's house, and about to move something else, which escapes me at the moment. The third project, 622 Core Neck, is right next to it. It's a somewhat of an A-frame house. It might have been Cliff and Jeannie's at one point.
In the family.
Martha, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And it has stairs also down to to the beach. It is very low. It's only about 20 feet. It's not the greatest looking house in the world. But that makes it very movable. It's sitting on piles right now. The waves can wash clearly under it, which was a CRMC thing, I think. And it's only 24 by 28, but it has, without the decks, and it has 4 bedrooms in it. So it's actually a great building. Scotty Cattell, the mover I mentioned, thought that if we could get permission to move, going back to the very front page of your package, following that red line and taking it out through Cutting Cottages, he could do that. He could not bring it out the dirt road that you drive on to get there, which you can tell. But if we got the permission of the Cutting Cottage Homeowners Association, we think you could do it that way. You could also bring it out to the bottom, underneath those 3 elms at the end of Cutting Cottage, and then swing up under the road there. But I don't, by no means do we have their permission to do this, so I'm just proposing that there is a route that it's workable. Yeah. Well, so it's funny you should ask that. Because the last page of the package shows the lot that is next to the old Methodist church, which is Coralberry Furniture now, at the end of Old Town Road, where Beacon Hill and Old Town Road and Center Road come together. We own that lot. If you put the page type site up, we own lot 1280 and was it 1880 and 1881. And we could, we're bound to that right of way that feeds the Cape in behind there, near your house. And then, but if we put that house near to the northeast of that, you would have plenty of room for the septic. The wetlands are very far away, and you wouldn't have to take down all the trees, just what you needed. So I think that would be, we've spent a lot of time with Land Trust and Allison Ring trying to find a lot that is not encumbered with restrictions. We looked at Solbeacon, we looked at Breed, we looked at Whitman, we looked at all the lots that are only restricted by town, not by conservancy. Conservancy restrictions will never lift. The town probably won't either. And Solbeacon it was so confusing who actually owned it that we sort of gave up on that. And we own outright. So would this be for 2 or all 3 of them? For 1 anyway. I actually looked at putting a fire station there, but it's not deep enough for the building and the apron.
I've got a question about this.
Which the proposed lot?
The proposed lot.
Yep.
Do we have a clear title?
It's always the question.
No, this particular lot is definitely a question.
I think 1881 clearly is. But I've been told without doing any plan, or what do you call it?
Title work
Title work, that 1880 is good.
by a lawyer?
No, that's what I said. We haven't spent a dime on this yet, other than my time. So that would be,
I mean, this is, because this has come up before. There's always been a hang up on that.
it's sort of things, I'm trying to make use of these 3 buildings. Nobody likes to see buildings being torn down. And so there is another avenue to consider. And that is something we've talked about. I think maybe Keith, you talked about was public-private partnerships. There's a big lot and we all know who owns it between the beachhead and the gas station, that if you were able to have a perpetuity lease, that would be a perfect spot for that bigger Cape. Yep. And, but you'd have to acquire it first and get the CRMC But there's houses all through there, from the gas meters all the way to the gas station. Right. That set a precedent. So I think,
That's much lower.
it's pretty
Yeah.
much the same as the beachhead.
No, the beachhead is dicey.
Yes.
And the beachhead,
Oh, Martha, believe me, I thought of 1,000 reasons you couldn't do this, but we gotta try something.
yeah, I'm just,
So I don't, you know,
that's the area in town.
I can continue to just sort of look at things and all that. It's not gonna happen right away, but I just wanted to show you that we got these 3 houses. I'm embraced with them because I have to do the demo permit for them. And
Yeah,
I'm-
no, I'm just, I'm glad that somebody actually looking at this stuff.
I was gonna say, I'd rather you. We need to have someone do a title search on those pieces of property.
Right.
I think we ought to do. If
Yeah.
we need to get an estimate from, the house mover to have a sense of what that costs, I think we ought to do that. You know, I would say, I'd rather, you know, sort of do the things, basic things necessary for the council to make go, no-go on it, sooner rather than.
I'd like to keep working on it.
So, to the extent that you, if that's what you were asking, that's at least what I.
It is. Thank you.
I think more, rather than.
I would
Good
actually
point.
say, a little furthering that,
Yeah.
taking these 3, and we talk about more ideas too, taking these 3 plus Thomas to an FTM is exciting.
What a great idea.
I know, shocked, right? How it comes like that. So, I mean, I think that's the only way it's gonna be.
Yeah, somewhere in that package is this little Excel sheet.
Yeah.
And just, you know, throwing out rough numbers, and these are using my own estimating factors. You could build a 2,000 square foot 4-bedroom house now for about 1.5. This, you're gonna get in at about 500.
What about Ball O'Brien, the new Ball O'Brien house in the,
They have a plan that
I know,
is,
but
that,
you got, I'll give them a house before better.
I let the housing board do their thing and I do my thing.
And that's.
We could have a joint, you know, and land trust, I'd love to get land trust in here too and look at all, you know, what they think. They, you know, I've spoken to it informally with Barbara, who feels that, you know, their charter is that their land remains open space, but, there's always things that they're looking at. I did ask if there was any properties coming up that they might be looking at that the owners might also be willing to sell to the town for employee housing or, you know, I try not to use affordable housing, but something like that. And she said, actually not at the moment, but, if you guys hear of anything, if you have thought of a lot that, my limits are Bridgegate Square because of the wire. If you look at the cost thing, the power company was about $25,000 to lift the cables. The Surtex, we figured, and we haven't gotten a hard estimate from them, but their job is similar to ours with all those horseshoe. They have lots of slack they can put in and lift it as the house goes under. We're guessing that Verizon, who has that real thick cable at the bottom, would be most of $100,000. So that's a major cost. You know, it's half the cost of the house. Not moving it, but lifting the utilities. So I'd love to go north with this. I looked at putting one on the transfer facility, but that sort of never grew legs. And there's just, if you look at the plat maps, there's so little town land that isn't fully restricted. And if you want to keep your jobs, you're not going to attempt to lift those restrictions. So you got to find something that isn't encumbered.
Well, there's also land that isn't restricted, but there isn't any space on.
Right.
But
But I would love to get some advice. The reason we stopped sort of at the end of Old Town Road is because it's an easy swing on the wires. Once you start getting up to the airport, there's a lot going across there that then ducks under the road and then comes back on the other side of the runway. So that was sort of our limit. And incline. You can only tip the house. So far. Yeah. So that's all I've got. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Yeah, I got a lot of input on this because when I was a member of the housing board, we moved 2 houses. Now, everything's different. Location, or there's three factors. Is it economically feasible? Is it geographically feasible? And is it spatially feasible to do it? Now, first thing I would hope you would do is clear that question of land ownership on that spot. Because even if a house doesn't get moved there, we'll have that in the books for even the housing board to pursue at a later date. And secondly, don't discount any abutters that you hope you can go across their property on.
Absolutely.
We did it at Minister's Lot, and every one of them embraced it except one.
Yeah.
And it
Okay.
was a huge millstone for quite some time.
Yep.
It almost at one time stopped it in its tracks. And as far as the utility lines, disconnection and reconnection, that is oftentimes the deal breaker. But if you can somehow package it as being under the umbrella of affordable housing, which if the town.
I'm staying away from that because it scares me, but there is, asked Jeff Wright about that when he and I toured the path to see what it would take for him to do it. He said there wasn't a wire that would be in the way for him, that he couldn't take down and put right back up behind the house.
The coordination
But
is,
I said, are you aware that if we do this under the auspices of affordable housing, using federal affordable housing money, that he has to do it for free? And he said, I've never heard that.
oh boy,
I
that's
have.
very true. No.
No, I don't either, but I understand, I've heard what you're saying before.
Mhm.
But I don't think rubber's ever met the road.
Again, when we moved that one, the other one was simple. It was going to be a second story at a later date, so off went the trusses. That was easy.
Is
someone-
that the one on Southeast Road?
Correct.
Yeah.
The other one came with challenges. And when we pursued it as affordable housing, all of a sudden, we found that the PUC is an ally and that all costs will be absorbed by the utility companies. So that was zero for cost to move that house for the person.
Well, you can have the call to Verizon now. I'll give you that one.
So maybe there's some other language, if it's town oriented,
Yeah.
that those costs could be absorbed.
So I will continue on this. My first step, Martha had warned me about this lot earlier, and we'll find out what hiccups there are and whether we can even clear them. And then I'll just keep working on a soft approach until, I'm full out on this, so I'm building a lot of other stuff, so.
And again, it doesn't
We'll
have to be,
form a team.
It
I'm
comes,
not an expert. It doesn't have to be moved through Bridgegate Square either. We moved the other one over the bridge near the property for sale there and right down past Twin Maples.
Oh,
Yeah, but
this
that-
would go that way. The
it's
little
a
one here
smaller
would go
house.
that way if we wanted. The weight, that you could put beams over the bridge if it couldn't handle the weight.
the
I
bridge,
think the mover has many axles, so the individual axle weight.
it's the height.
So I'll come, thank you. Breakers the Cat Willis house has to be down, soon. The other two have to be down in the spring. They're not gonna break ground on the new house. That's the Hunt property. He's not gonna break ground on that until the frost is out of the ground. So, but the act, now we could pull it out and park it somewhere, maybe. But, where? So the timing's short, which is, I wanted to come back to something you said. One of the things, the biggest hurdle to moving houses is, especially older houses, is they have to be fully compliant with the building code, the current building code, before they can get a CO. It's hard to take a house with 2x4 studs into the current energy code. So that's usually the killer. These two houses, at least the two out by Cutting Cottages, already are code compliant. The Cat Willis house probably not.
And at Skip's house, that's the biggest one over down the
Yeah.
neck. Can you get the heavy machinery on the seaward side to actually pick it up and move
We
it?
asked about bringing a barge in. Do you remember when the Block Island Club was delivered?
Yeah.
They built basically a beam bridge between a grounded barge and the foundation. They rolled it across the beams and plucked it down there, and then they pulled the life-saving station that was by the movie theater out the same way. You now, environmental people no longer let you ground the barge because it kills some snail. So it's good science, but you just can't do it.
Oh, heck, I thought that was such a great idea. I just want to second again, because there's this, every couple of years, this piece of land at the old center comes up. And we're going to get something done with it, and then the administrations change and people come and go, and it never happens. So we've got to get that taken care of.
Somebody suggested we look at Negus Park, but Negus Park is underwater in 50 years. So,
Well, the only other thing that I was thinking, but we had talked about whether some portion of
Stampede.
along the road there.
That's definitely a possibility. And we talked about that. The housing board / land trust is looking at putting some dwelling units up near the road in a crescent shape or something like up near the condos.
Yeah.
And that's possible. Once you got to Center Road from Beach, you could turn right there. I haven't traveled that path yet, but it's possible.
What are the next steps we'll have to do?
I gotta do some very fundamental things and look for the showstopper. If we keep moving and don't hit that showstopper, we should be moving on this monthly, I think. And
Yes.
if we look for a January, February FTM, we should be ready to go by then, but that seems awfully aggressive.
Okay,
There's all kinds of lead times out of FTM, so.
Yeah.
Why don't we put this also on that?
Next, yeah.
okay,
If anyone comes up with any idea, want to look at something else, I can think of something else. For, I don't know, that's one thing. So if anyone can think of a location, we'll start looking more into that private public partnership.
Yeah, I was gonna say, David talked that over.
No,
We could bring.
until you guys sort of give me a nod.
Yeah, so we'll start moving on those things and we'll look at the title, we'll find some, the title switch back up. We might as well get it done.
we've got it. It's ridiculous.
Exactly, so, we just want to get this, try to do, let you know, that's other options. These homes are not, I really.
Yeah.
Is that one house?
I feel like they ran on the other ones too. Yeah. We talked about, I think,
So, I'm sorry.
and they're movable and they're in good shape, so,
And you don't think the little one could go on into the. What's the question?
No, just 1880.
Because
It's not, it's small. 81 is,
well, I know, I can see how small it is, that's a relatively small house too.
but you have setbacks in there too, and septic.
and we've had some preliminary discussion. We like to know.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, because we were thinking.
Yes.
Could be a 5 years, something like that. That's why
Right.
I was saying.
It's a little big for that, but there's exceptions.
It actually breaks it, yeah.
Tom and Marianne, we have a strong ally at a PUC if we want to pursue any kind of waiver of fees, okay? Like, if you need that contact. person.
I've heard it's out there and wouldn't even know how to get to it, but Allison, would.
I'd be glad to work with you on that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Good news. Next item on the agenda is discuss and act on board commissions and committees. First item is to Appoint a member to the Commission of Motor Vehicles for Hire. We've had this on our agenda for many years, I was gonna, it has been many years. It has been many years. Happy to announce Patrick Evans wants to step forward and serve on the Motor Vehicles for Hire to replace Stephen McQueenie as a taxi license holder. So I will make a motion to appoint Patrick Evans to the Commission on Motor Vehicles for Hire. Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Keith? Martha? I'm in favor. Sven and Mark?
Aye.
Motion will carry. Good luck to Patrick Evans. Item B on that agenda item is to announce vacancies. The Deer Task Force, 3 people are needed. Another person is needed on the Commission on Motor Vehicles for Hire that cannot be a taxi license holder. And there is a spot on the Police Advisory Commission for a 5-year term and the Historic District Commission for, I believe, a 1-year term. That being said, item number 10, discuss opening closed session minutes at the December 5th meeting. I added this to the agenda because I was trying to gauge the interest of the council on, Mark and I are leaving and new council's coming in. If there's any closed session meetings you want to unseal. There's many reasons to do that. I think there are many minutes that we can unseal because either property transactions have been completed or they're not, they just could be unsealed. So if there's anything in that realm, I would say make a list, bring it to Millie, and that will be put before the attorneys to see if it's okay to unseal them, and we will unseal them at the December 5th meeting. No action need to be taken on that tonight, just putting a bug in your ear.
I remember we did this once in my 2 years. Remember, I think it might have been when Molly was leaving. Because there's been this push, I think, by the AG's office to stay current with opening those closed, and I think it's a great idea. I would just say it might be helpful if somebody either sent us a package of those closed minute meetings or put before us,
I
some
think that'd
of
be
them.
very helpful too. But okay, I will be the one to ask the clerk's office for those items.
I'd be happy. Do we have that? I mean,
Well, I'm
you know,
leaving.
Yeah, all right. exactly, yes.
I don't care if I have a black eye. I don't need, you don't see me on camera anymore. All right. Item number 11 is to approve the minutes of November 3rd, November 7th. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 3rd. Second by Sven. All those in favor, Martha? Keith?
Yes, sir.
I'm in favor. Mark?
Aye.
And Sven. Motion will carry. Make a motion to approve the minutes of November 7th.
Second.
Seconded by Keith. All those in favor,
I have a couple
Oop.
corrections.
November 7th?
Yes, on items 6 and 8, there's 3 motions made by Mr. Stover and seconded by Mr. Stover on all 3 of them.
Well,
I'm a multitasker.
he's a multitasker.
So maybe you can just put Sven's name in or my name as on the seconds.
Well, who actually seconded them?
I believe I did. The 2 motions in item 6 and the 1 motion in item 8 should be changed to say that Mr. Emmanuel seconded the motion.
You all on board with that?
That's great to me.
I'll amend my motion to approve the minutes of November 7th with changes made by Mr. Manuel.
Oh, yes, I modify my second.
Thanks, Keith. All those in favor, Keith?
Yes.
Martha? I'm in favor. Sven? Yes, very nice. All right, motion will carry. Make a motion to adjourn,
No, we're continuing a closed session.
but we're adjourning this section though, right?
I thought we had to keep this open,
And then you post the meeting after these.
then we adjourn. after
Right
the
on.
close.
All right.
So just, so you know,
Uh,
nothing we had a closed session before, we ran out of time.
Right. Yes.
So, we don't make a motion to go back in the closed session?
Yeah.
All right, make a motion to go. to con-
Andre. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Kim,
We'll be here in December.
for your great input.
We have one more meeting. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Molly.
Thank you.
Hi, Molly.
What? Make a motion to go back into closed session? Seconded by Sven. Keith, I need an eye. Mark? Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just need to mention some.